Hey everyone, it's Grandmaster Ben Finegold here with Kid Chess. And I thought I'd show you a game with a couple of world chess champions. We got Magnus Carlsen, who's the current world champion. And we have Vishy, who was the world champion that he beat to become world champion a few years ago. And I've known Anand for, I guess, about 34 years. And I've known Magnus for a while too. So this was a blitz game. And that means both sides had about 5 minutes for each side for the whole game. So they were playing very quickly. And sometimes in blitz chess, we see more mistakes because the players are playing faster. And sometimes we see unusual openings. And here we see both. And the reason I like this game is it had a really nice ending with some good tactics for you to learn. So let's look at it. Okay, so Magnus, instead of playing one of his center pawns forward, played knight f3, and he fee encountered his queen bishop, which I sometimes do, just to get it sort of out of the well-known paths. Okay, and then he played the move e4, which probably at the super grandmaster level has never been played before. It's a pawn sacrifice, and it's actually transposing into another opening with colors reversed. So there's a gambit black can play called the Budapest Gambit. It looks like this. Not very popular. And the funny thing is Magnus basically got this move in for free, which isn't that important, but he has the white pieces. So that's sort of what happened in this game. Okay. Takes, the knight attacks the pawn, the knight defends the pawn, the knight attacks the pawn. And with the pawns on b2, and this is a Budapest, normally we would defend our pawn with this, which obviously he could do. But Vishy decided just to give the pawn back with knight c6. And he didn't take the pawn. He played bishop c4, threatening this f7 pawn. So e6, bishop b2. So instead of taking back his pawn, Magnus is like, well, I can take it later. And instead, I'll get all my pieces developed. It's a good idea. Okay, Anand got his bishop out. Both sides castled. You'll notice when grandmasters play each other and other strong players, masters, your chess coaches, the best players in your club, they often both castle and they get almost all of their minor pieces out, if not all of them in the opening. Those are good general principles for you to remember. Okay, Magnus decided, I want my pawn back. And Vishy decided his bishop was blocked in, so he played the move e5. Now his bishop can get out. Okay. And Magnus decided to attack because his bishop is pointed this way. His other bishop is pointed this way. His queen is pointed this way. Obviously, his knight could go to the king's side. And that's a difference between really strong grandmaster and sort of an average player. A lot of average chess players, they have a style that they like to play. Maybe it's boring, maybe it's exciting, maybe it's sacrifice, maybe it's trade pieces to an ending, maybe they hate isolated pawns, maybe they like isolated pawns. And grandmasters aren't necessarily like that. Grandmasters like winning positions. We like to be up a queen and checkmating our opponent. So what we do is we try to meet the demands of the position. We look at the position, and then we play the move that makes sense in that position, not the move that we like to play in general. Okay? So Magnus, I would say, typically likes a boring game, get a little advantage, increase his advantage, don't give his opponent any tricks, and sort of win a boring game. And I can name other grandmasters that like exciting games. However, since Magnus has all of his minor pieces out, and Vishy's bishop on c8 hasn't moved yet, Magnus thought he should attack. So he attacked the center with the move f4. And this is a common ploy. You attack center pawns with side pawns. You want to trade your side pawns for center pawns. So not only is he attacking this pawn, but he's also opening up the line for his rook. Okay, so Vishy took the pawn. That's okay. And instead of taking back, which is a fine move, Magnus played queen h5, getting another piece into the attack. which is also okay. Okay, now Vishy made his first mistake. He should play bishop to e6, which gets his last piece out, and he wants to trade off this bishop, which is a real monster for white. That's a great bishop. So bishop e6, and black has a fine position. But it's a blitz game. They're playing very quickly. So, they're not going to play the best moves all the time. Played knight d4, which blocks this bishop. And Carlsen took with the rook. And you can see, Magnus Carlsen is getting a lot of pieces over here near the black king. And black has a lot of pieces on the queen side. So Vishy's king is a little danger there. Okay, Magnus was happy that Vishy made another mistake. Again, bishop e6 is the correct move, developing the last piece. Anand played g6, attacking the queen. Queen goes into the center, queen e5. Now, normally, in the opening and middle game, if you move your queen and put it really far away, it can get harassed. This is different because the two moves that attack the queen with the bishop, those aren't good because my knight can take. And if you attack with the knight c6, for example, attacking the queen, now you're opening up this line for the queen and bishop, so we have checkmate. So the queen in the center, if it gets harassed, that's not good. But if it doesn't get harassed, that's great. And you can't play f6, attacking the queen, because the pawn is pinned. So Magnus realized, that's a pretty good square for my queen, and he can't attack it. Vishy played b6. He decided to get his bishop out the other way, I guess, instead of the normal way. And that's also a bad move. And just like Paul Morphy does in a lot of our videos, Magnus, the current world champion, Magnus Carlsen, got his last piece into play, this rook on a1. Okay, so he's got two rooks and a bishop attacking this f pawn. And you can see Magnus is using all of his pieces to attack. Okay, bishop f5 was played, blocking the rooks. And Magnus said, but I want to move my rook there. So if you want to make a move and your opponent stops you, you try to make the move anyway. See what you can do. There's more than one way to win, but Magnus played g4, attacking the bishop. Wants the bishop to move away so he can take on f7. Well, Anand doesn't want to lose his bishop. He doesn't want white to play pawn takes bishop there. So he played the move bishop e6, saving his bishop and also blocking this bishop. Too late. Bishop takes. Okay, in your opinion, kids at the classroom or at home, should black take with the pawn or should black take with the knight? In fact, you want to take one way, but you can't. You want to take with the knight because that looks nicer, but then checkmate. That queen and bishop are still lined up. That's a battery. So you have to take with the pawn. Okay. And then rook takes rook check. You can't take with the king because the rook is here. You don't want to lose your queen, so you have to take with the bishop. Okay, and Anand played knight f6 check, and this isn't good. Wherever the king goes, there's going to be a discovered double kind of attack on the king. He played king h8, and now this is a really nice finish for Magnus. So this position, the knight is defending the pawn. And Magnus found a way to play a really nice checkmate. But he missed a nicer way. And I'll show you the nicer way after I show you the Magnus way. Okay? And that's the problem with black's position, is a lot of moves win for white because black's pieces are all in the back row. So Magnus wanted to take this pawn on e6, but obviously the knight's defending it. Can't play queen takes pawn. There's a knight here. So he just played c3 and said, get your knight out of there. Okay, and you can't let white play pawn takes knight, so he moved his knight. And now Magnus played a beautiful checkmating move. Really nice. Okay, excellent. He played the move, knight e8 check. Notice it's check, and also notice the queen is attacked. If you take the queen, this is a very beautiful checkmate. The reason it's checkmate, the knight protects the escape square, and the queen can't take because the knight blocks the queen. That's why Magnus played knight e8. And if you play king to g8 and don't take the queen, I just take this pawn with check. That's why Magnus played c3, kicking the knight out, and then checkmate. Okay, now let's go back. In this position, the game would have finished in a more beautiful way, I think, if Magnus had found that checkmate earlier, but slightly different. Not taking on e6, but removing the defender. Now c3 wins because it removes the defender of e6. But he could have played knight e8 check here. Okay, black can play bishop g7, which is checkmate. Queen f6 is silly. He plays king g8. Okay, now this is removing the defender and overworked. Two tactics you want to learn. Okay, white wants to play queen h8, and white wants to play rook f8, and those are both defended by the king. That means the king is overworked. The king is defending two important threats for white. When you have two threats and your opponent has one piece defending both threats, sometimes that doesn't work. And here it doesn't work for black in a very beautiful way. So you have to figure out which move you're going to make first. Okay, you could take the bishop and then play queen h8, or you could play queen h8 and then take the bishop. It turns out one of those is better than the other. And obviously, the best thing you can do is checkmate. And by sacrificing the queen, Magnus could have had a really beautiful checkmate. Queen h8 check. It's the same checkmate I showed you before, but we're sacrificing the queen here. King takes and checkmate. So Magnus could have won the game in a more beautiful way, but the way he won was fine. And if you remember some of the moves of this game, you'll remember this queen and this rook didn't move. That's not good. So that's why white's attack was successful. White's king was safe. He used all of his pieces to attack black's king, and black didn't get all of his pieces out, so he lost the game. Now, of course, those were two world champions, and the reason one of them lost, probably because it was a blitz game. They were both playing a chess move every 3 or 4 seconds, so they can't play perfect chess, but you get fun games like this. And Magnus still held by the chess principles we all know. Use all of your pieces when you attack. Then you're more likely to be successful. And it's fun when you can finish it off with a queen sacrifice. This is Grandmaster Ben Finegold here with Kid Chess. Until next time, kids. Bye.